Hello friends, in our previous videos we have discussed what is state management and what are the different ways to do the state management in React, prop drilling, context, the issues which we have with the context we overcome with the help of Redux, and we have used here an example, working example using a classic Redux which is deprecated now in the latest version. So we used RTK, which is Redux Toolkit, and we even understood Zustand state management. This is another store. Instead of RTK, you can even use Zustand based on our need and requirements. Now we are going to learn Redux middleware. Okay, so that Redux middleware works with Redux Toolkit. Okay, for Zustand we don't need to use a middleware. I'll discuss even that one in this video. So what I'm going to do, the same examples what we have run with RTK, I'm going to explain that with integrating the middleware with the same example. So please, if you did not went through these videos, please once go through this at least Redux Toolkit, and then we will add the middleware to the same example. Okay, so let's continue. So what is the Redux middleware? So we already know, right, what is a dispatch. Okay, reducer with our previous examples. Like, let me just quickly open it if in case it, yeah. So we know, right, React component will use the use dispatch method, and like we are calling a create slice method. Okay, configure store Redux use selector will be used to get the updated state, and we will update into the UI. Okay, so a similar thing. So what is going to be happen with the case of Redux store, sorry, Redux middleware. Let me open the file again, sorry. So here if you see what is middleware, it's a function. Okay, it is a function which sits between dispatch and reducer. So with the name itself, it is something like which will give you the middleware functionality, means something you can do additional work, and it sits between the dispatch and reducer. Okay, it intercepts every dispatched action, allowing you to perform additional work before the action reaches the reducer. So whenever you dispatch an action, right, so it will stop to reach it to reducer, this middleware, and allow you to do perform some additional actions. So just to understand with some real life analogy, right, I'll give you an example. Let's say you are a passenger, right, you went to the airport. Then before going to the boarding gate, what will happen? Airport security will do this certain kind of checks, like can verify identity, can check documents, passengers, stop delays, and they can ask you some security questions, right? Once these are okay, then he allows you to move to the boarding gate, and then you will went inside to the plane. Similar thing here. So React component dispatch and action, which is like, let's say in our previous examples we have seen like something add action, add employee. This is an action. So before this action reach to the reducer, now we need to do some middleware functionalities, which can be either we need to log what is the states and all, we need to do some validations or calling some APIs. Okay, and or do we need to put some blocks or delay we want. So all this kind of functionality we are going to write in a middleware. So simply it is what it do, it sits between our dispatch method and a reducer method, and once all our middleware work is completed, we will move it back to the reducer, which will update the store with the latest values data. Okay, same thing is written here. React component dispatch an action, middleware intercept the action, middleware can log, validate, call APIs, delay, whichever functionality we need to do in a middle, we can do that. If everything is fine, the action reaches to the reducer finally, and the reducer finally updates the Redux store. So same process here. Okay, let's understand now this with the help of code. If you able to still recollect, right, this store.ts file is related to our this RTK. Okay, for now just ignore employee store.ts. I kept it, just I want to show something else later, but this file, you remember, it is related to the Zustand store. Okay, so ignore this. So the files for RTK we need is store.ts file. This is our components which we are seeing here, a working UI from them. And we have one feature which is nothing but employee slice.ts, the same which we have seen in our previous video. Okay, the only change what we are going to do here is like when we perform some action, and before coming to reducer we have to perform some additional actions. Okay, so what I have done is, right, I created one middleware folder. In this middleware folder I have written one middleware which what it will do, it will just log for me, okay, few things. Like before whenever I do some actions, right, it will do some console.log, like which action I have created and what is the current state value. Okay, I will explain you like even what is this next action, but it will do that one and later. So middleware stops the things to go to reducer. What is this next action is, right, once you perform your each and everything, whatever your need it is, then what you will do a simply next action. Okay, this next method what it will do, it will move the changes then later to the reducer. Okay, simply once, if you won't write this one, you will not get the call to the reducer finally. Okay, let's see this how it is working. Okay, let me reload my screen. Okay, console Suresh IT, add employee. You can see here action dispatched. This action I have clicked, this is my payload. While clicking on that action, this is my previous state and this is my next state. Okay, and it got completed here. Let's see if I won't write this next method, then what happens. Let me reload the screen, and again I am adding Suresh. I am doing IT, add employee. You see result is not defined, right? That's an error. One more thing I need to do. Okay, so just we got the log. Okay, but it is not updated to the state. So just I'm reverting my code back. Sorry. Okay, so this is understandable, very much clear, right? What is this middleware? It is a logger middleware. So like this you can create a multiple middlewares, and where you do the settings for this one is in your store.ts file. Okay, in your store.ts file, earlier we just have added the reducer. We can add multiple reducers, but we have here only using the employee. We use the employee, and here we are adding new middleware which is nothing but our it where from it comes, right? So these two files I have imported here. Okay, and into the middleware I'm just taking the get default middlewares from this Redux, and then simply I'm concatenating my custom middlewares as well, which is one is logger and one is API middleware. So I did not explain you API middleware yet, we will go next. So logger middleware I'm just adding it. Okay, so this is way how this middleware works. Okay, let's understand with another middleware which is like API middleware. Let's say before going action to reducer, if we need to do some API call, right? So here we are calling this set employees method for the reducer. Okay, so what I did in my previous one, I have added employees employee slice. I need to go here. I added two new method, fetch employee. It's not doing anything, it's just triggering the middleware. Okay, and I have written one more method, set employee, which will again setting the state employees from my API. That is what I want to do. Instead of entering and coming from the form, I will going to hit one API fetch employee, and it should update the set employees. So same thing I am doing here. Okay, I have written one you can see here one button. On click of that button, first what I'm going to do, I'm going to dispatch an action which is a fetch employee action. Okay, it will not do anything basically. If you see here, in employee slice.ts, I am doing nothing, but middleware start invoking. Okay, in that middleware I am just checking the type. If the type is like a fetch employee, okay, if the action type is the fetch employee, then simply I am doing one API call. Okay, and once this API call giving me the success response, I am updating this const value with the looping it and converting it into this form of employee, and simply calling this method which is coming from the store set employees method. This set employees method simply again updating my state here, this set employee method. So these two methods I added newly. Okay, so this middleware, this API middleware, if you have seen, do a service call, and once this is done, finally I am returning the next action. So then it will reach to the reducer and perform the actions for me. Okay, and the usage is same again in employee store, in store.ts file. I am just concatenating even the add middleware. It's clear. Now let me do how it's working. So once I clicked on the load employees, so you have seen previous values went away, and all the values coming from this API to me, users APIs, it got called, it converted into my required format. Both of them I concatenated. That's why these logs also coming properly to me, and even it called for me this API and given me the response. So from here it is very much clear, like reducer is something which sits between, as I told, dispatch and the reducer. Okay, it can do something. We use it for adding some logs or validations and API calls, which we have already seen with an example. Okay, now let's think like that. So as I told initially, we use this Redux middleware with Redux Toolkit. We won't use it with Zustand. Okay, the way of writing is different here, right? That's the reason. So there is no middleware in Zustand. So I pronounce it Zustand. Maybe some people will say Zustand or something, but just if you understand it, it will be okay for me, whatever it pronounced. So Redux Thunk will again come with Redux Toolkit. We are going to discuss these things later. So this part we have used in Redux Toolkit, but it is not available in Zustand. Why it is not available? So I'll tell you one thing here. So Zustand has no dispatch and reducer method. That's correct, right? So as I shown you earlier this file, it does not have any actions and dispatcher. Okay, so simply in Zustand you no need to do extra middleware. What you simply can do it, whichever function, whichever the actions you are using in your create method, right? These actions, simply you can make that method as a async. Okay, method you will make async, and you can do the service call or your whatever actions you have to done once, and lastly you can do the set employee. Okay, so this is an await, right? Once the data is coming, then only this will be triggered, and finally, so we no need to create a middleware in Zustand. That's why we don't have that feature there. Okay, we can directly make that these functions as async functions. Hope you understand it. And anything else is remaining here to explain? Just we can read it. Redux use middleware because every state change goes through dispatch actions. Middleware can intercept actions before they reach to reducer to perform tasks like login, authentication, API call. This is very clear, we understood. Zustand has no dispatch and reducer. Instead, it exposes store functions. So this can be asked in any interview questions, right? What is the difference between these two, and why we are not using the middleware in Zustand? Okay. Zustand has no dispatch and reducer. Instead, it exposes store functions. So what it is doing, we have the store functions, right? This one, those functions can perform asynchronous work. We can make them function, those functions as asynchronous by adding the async there and await, and update the state with the set. So middleware pipeline is not necessary there. Same thing is written in differently here. Redux Toolkit is action based, so middleware sits between dispatch and reducer. Zustand is a function based. Okay, this is a function based, so simply we can write a async logic inside the store function itself. There is no dispatch pipeline that needs middleware. Got it? Hope you understand this. So in our next video we are going to cover like what we have to cover next is we have to go through this, what is Redux, Thunk and Saga, okay, and RTK queries. Stay updated, subscribe the channel.